Cause girl, you don't even know the real Gucci. Y'all think y'all know the real Gucci. Y'all don't know the real Gucci. That nigga parading around out here, that ain't the real Gucci, man. That's not him. I don't know what the fuck, honestly. Like, last time I seen Gucci was at Patchwork Studio in 2010. Cold Blooded was there. Was Mojo there? Yeah, I think Mojo, Cold Blooded. Like, this the last time I saw Gucci in the flesh, but even that was...
They said Gucci Mane isn't really Gucci Mane. That's Hobson. They gave him plastic surgery to become Gucci Mane. And now they saying Damar Hamlin isn't Damar Hamlin. And if you ever watched the TV show The Boys, you know about Noir. You know how Noir died, but they had somebody else come back to play him. That's crazy.
The street's been...
Kanye just dropped a bomb that makes decades of gossip look like child's play. The rumor mill has been loud. People whisper the man on stage isn't the man we remember. Some claim a different face, a different life, maybe even a different soul, replaced in plain sight. It started as a joke, a conspiracy corner of the internet, then climbed into mainstream chatter. Now that a high-profile voice has leaned in, the noise feels heavier and harder to ignore. Online threads insist that changes in posture, voice, and presence add up to something bigger. Fans are digging old interviews and performances, trying to spot the switch. What once seemed like a wild meme now feels like a mystery with repeating clues. So where did this all begin? And why are people suddenly convinced the story isn't finished? I'll walk you through the scenes, the claims, and the moments that accelerated the theory. Back in the early 2010s, a public breakdown on social media sent shockwaves through the music world. A famous, chaotic timeline of posts had everyone watching, shouting, and screenshotting in real time. People remember that meltdown as a turning point, a moment when fans began to ask if something else was happening. Shortly after, law enforcement got involved following a dramatic street incident. Witness reports described erratic behavior and a physical confrontation that ended with an arrest. The footage and police statements fed the rumor mill and gave skeptics a new angle to chew on. From that day forward, questions lingered about what the public had truly witnessed. Courtroom records show legal consequences followed, and the sentencing that came next surprised many. Official documents indicated a multi-year sentence, though time served ended up shorter than the initial term. Some took that reduction as proof of rehabilitation. Others read it as a convenient transition. Either way, when the artist reappeared, his energy and presentation had shifted noticeably. He later admitted to long-term substance dependency and publicly wrote messages about regret and recovery. Those confessions struck a chord because they offered a human explanation for erratic behavior, and they invited...
For about 8 years now. It started around around Illmind 5 when that came out, because the song was so big, and they told me I had to kind of sacrifice something. They said you're gonna have to pay it back because he just put this information out there, and this is gonna put people in the wrong mindset of what we're trying to do in society. So they told me that if I don't do these list of things, then they're going to hurt my family. It was like an all white room, and they opened one of the doors, and it had a Gucci suit. A Gucci bodysuit. And I said, oh no, please don't tell me that is what I think it is. They said, yeah.
Sympathy. But paradoxically, the candor also intensified debate. If he was so different after treatment, did that mean he had truly changed? Or did it simply make the differences more obvious, leading observers to invent other explanations? Around the time of the comeback, fans noted physical changes, weight loss, clearer speech, different mannerisms. For some people, the makeover signaled healing. For others, it raised eyebrows about who was controlling the narrative. When personal relationships shifted and a new partner entered the public picture, the chorus of suspicion grew louder. Accusations started to include claims that someone in the inner circle was managing everything. Former associates and ex-partners occasionally surface with alarming comments about odd behavior behind the scenes. When someone close fires off a public warning, it sparks fresh searches through old timelines. Those voices added dramatic flavor to an already strange story, and they forced social media to re-examine prior assumptions. A few high-profile reactions from other artists escalated the chatter even more. One ally publicly suggested that the person in the spotlight may not be who they once were. Another music figure later echoed similar concerns, and suddenly, what had been fringe conversations moved toward mainstream scrutiny. People began comparing recorded interviews from different eras, noting small mismatches that bolstered their claims. The internet, being what it is, built narratives faster than anyone could verify with documents or facts. Then, a prominent cultural figure stepped into the argument, offering comments that many perceived as insider knowledge. When someone with a history of making shock claims repeats the theory, listeners split between believer and skeptic. That intervention gave the rumor new oxygen and forced commentators to reframe the debate around industry power. Stories emerge suggesting that the entertainment business sometimes creates manufactured public personas for profit and control. Conspiracy theorists point to alleged instances where appearances, voices, or histories were altered by those with influence. Skeptics remind us that the simplest explanations, medication, therapy, lifestyle changes, can explain a lot. But the mixture of personal testimony, celebrity remarks, and odd timing kept the story alive. One former insider went live on social platforms claiming a coercive meeting and odd demands tied to identity. Whether you saw that as truth or attention-seeking, the clip added a chilling layer to the narrative. People replayed the admission and connected it to other moments where sources said replacements were discussed. Suddenly, the entire saga read like a thriller, complete with alleged threats, secret meetings, and staged transitions. Public reactions split into camps: those who accepted public statements at face value, and those who felt there were too many unresolved questions. Discussion threads multiplied, and every new interview was parsed for hidden meaning. The rumor ecosystem fed off itself. Posts, reactions, reposts, creating a loop that amplified every small inconsistency. At its core, the debate asks a simple question: did we witness a real personal transformation or something orchestrated? Legal records, rehab announcements, and heartfelt apologies provided a narrative of recovery that many found believable. He wrote about shame and accountability, raw lines about addiction that read like a plea to reclaim dignity. Those notes softened some critics, prompting others to argue they were staged statements designed to tidy public relations. In that tension, fans were left guessing what was genuine and what was manufactured. Then, social proof arrived. Close acquaintances and exes started publicly commenting on inconsistencies. Their first-hand remarks intensify suspicion because they claimed to recognize mannerisms that didn't match the past. When a former partner says they felt a switch, audiences listen and archives get hunted for corroborating evidence. The story morphed from a rumor into a series of personal testimonies that couldn't be easily dismissed. As the discussion surged, commentators from around the culture weighed in with hot takes and sharp rebukes. One influential performer publicly criticized the new partner in a high-profile interview, calling their presence into question. That exchange lit new fires, making the conversation as much about those close to the artist as it was about the artist himself. Accusations about control, finances, and medical supervision began to circulate widely. Online, observers pointed to small details: sunglasses replaced eye contact, wardrobe shifts, altered stage routines. They argued those choices were cover tactics, intended to hide subtle differences that would trigger scrutiny. Others pushed back, insisting changes are expected after trauma, treatment, or maturing as a public figure. Which side is right? The answer depends on what you choose to believe and which evidence you trust. Around the same period, a viral interview resurfaced where the artist described waking up in a hospital and feeling embarrassed by past choices. That confession humanized him and explained some of the erratic past behavior, but it also deepened the mystery for others. When celebrities admit fault and outline recovery plans, public trust can either repair or fracture further. In this case, honesty seemed to both heal and inflame the crowd. After years of back and forth, the debate matured into a multimedia phenomenon. Songs, interviews, social posts, and even new music referenced the controversy. People who once laughed now revisited their opinions as more voices chimed in, claiming inside knowledge. Fans dug deeper into timelines, footage, and interviews to map a narrative that made sense to them. At times, it felt like the internet was acting as an unofficial investigative team. So what changed when a major industry voice suggested the replacement theory might be real? That comment refocused attention and introduced the idea that powerful forces could replace identities for business or image reasons. Some listeners took that as confirmation. Others saw it as a performative provocation from someone who courts headlines. Either way, the remark reopened conversation, and the social feeds responded immediately. As rumors continued, more people offered personal recollections that seemed to support the idea of a switch. A former acquaintance even released a song with pointed lyrics demanding answers about a rumored body and disappearance. These dramatic acts pushed the topic from gossip into activism for some and spectacle for others. When art becomes protest, it changes how the public consumes both the music and the story. Now, after all the claims, questions, and public reckonings, the core problem remains. We lack full, undeniable proof. Most evidence is circumstantial, emotional, or based on changes the public finds hard to explain. But cultural memory is stubborn. Once doubt enters a community's consciousness, it rarely leaves quietly. Whether you accept the celebrity's account of recovery or believe in a